Greetings, class. I hope you guys are doing well and staying safe. I'm here. What I'm trying to do is go over video lectures of the essays we're going over in class. We would be going over in class. And today I'm going to go over a pledge for bullies. And one thing I like about this essay is, one, it's really short. It's easy to read, very easy to understand. It's more of an op-ed opinion piece, so there's not a lot of logos in it, but there's still a lot of great points that I like in this essay. And it starts with something very conventional that we see a lot, and that is online bullying. And if you look up any article on the internet, underneath it in the comments section, you'll often find the most racist, misogynistic, just vilifying things you've ever seen in your life. And the essay that we read, A Pledge to Bullies, starts with that idea where there's a guy in his town, Phil Gully's town, who is just an online troll. And he likes to bully people. And one of the things that this guy is upset about is Colin Kaepernick, which is actually a great conversation piece. I think that I know that Colin Kaepernick, he's a bit dated right now. I think that's past. But I think to get into our topic, I think that could be a good idea for a paper, because what Colin Kaepernick was doing, he was protesting. He was not standing for the national anthem, and he was doing it on behalf of police brutality, and he was trying to bring awareness to that cause. So if you're saying that activism is patriotic when it goes to protesting the government for the sake of minorities, you might be able to use Colin Kaepernick as an example of that paragraph, or what you're doing, or you could take it another angle and you could say it's not patriotic what he is doing because he's protesting the traditions of our country. And so there's two angles you could take on that. And if we were in class, I'd have a huge discussion on this, as you could imagine, but I think that's a key conversation piece to this essay. And what the author then proceeds to do after going over Colin Kaepernick, he says he talked to his son, and his son, who is in the military, said that what Colin Kaepernick did wasn't a big deal. And I thought that was interesting as an example. And I know some people in the military were very upset about what he did, and some people weren't upset at all. But that's one of his proofs of examples. What I really like about this essay, and it gets into some logical fallacies a bit, but I really like the second page where he says that every day in school, we make students say the Pledge of Allegiance. And he says, just because you say the Pledge of Allegiance doesn't mean you're being patriotic. And if we're looking at a scale of patriotism, he rates that pretty low. And I find that interesting. I come from a military background. My dad served 21 years in the military. And I've never thought about this, but I think he has from a military perspective, it would be very disrespectful to not say the Pledge of Allegiance or stand for the national anthem. But from a different perspective, the author has a good point that if it's not in your heart when you're saying the Pledge of Allegiance, then it doesn't have much gravity or weight. So if you could be standing for the national anthem, and if you're drunk thinking about hot dogs and how you have to use a restroom, that's not very patriotic on your part. So he's saying that patriotism really has to come from the heart. It has to come from truth and meaning. I think that's a pretty good idea. I like that a lot. And another thing he says, he goes into vows, like what we say for marriage. And he says that he married his wife and he pledged to love her every single day of his life. And he says, I don't have to say that I love you every day. And to the same extent, I don't have to say the Pledge of Allegiance to pledge my patriotism to my country. And he's saying that we're being a bit ridiculous with our standards of patriotism. And another example he gives is, he's a Christian. He goes to church and he says, I don't go to church every day. I don't pray every day, but that doesn't mean that I'm any less of a Christian. And if I don't say the Pledge of Allegiance every day or stand for the national anthem, it doesn't make me any less of an American. And I like those ideas. I think those are very, very strong. They do have elements of logical fallacy. I don't know if they really get into the argument itself. And I think to really complicate it, you'd have to elaborate and go into a lot more details with those examples, but I do like them. And a couple other things he says. I really like the last page where he says in the second paragraph, "Is America so weak, so delicate, she cannot bear the slightest criticism?" And as we'll see in other essays, part of patriotism is questioning. There's two types of patriotism. There's progressive, which is questioning your country and wanting better for it. And there's also blind patriotism, which is just pledging loyalty to your country no matter what it's doing. That introduces that idea. And I also like what the author says at the end. And what he says at the end is, he says that this person in his town he's never seen him do community service. He just sits behind a keyboard and just types mean things to people. And he's saying if he really wants to be patriotic and show his patriotism, then he should be out in the community doing something rather than sitting behind a keyboard. So he's saying it's a bit hypocritical for this guy to question people's patriotism and sense of community when he's doing nothing for the community. He's just dividing the community. So I like this essay because it gives a lot of examples of patriotism and activism, and it's a pretty simple read, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please contact me at bpranowitz@yahoo.com. Thank you.